Right time of year up here, you'll find slippery jacks, slippery gills, saffron milk caps, which are the ones that I really primarily focus on.
Scott Ray has been foraging mushrooms for about a decade in the lush Gippsland region southeast of Melbourne.
There's all sorts of stuff, good and bad. I've sort of stuck to 2 or 3 types that I really know what they are, and I'm very confident what they are, and they're the only ones I'll eat.
Locals like Scott are reeling from the deaths of 3 people from suspected mushroom poisoning over the weekend, following a family lunch a week earlier.
It's a horrible thing to have happened. Horrible thing. Life's fragile. You eat the wrong thing, you can end up very unwell.
Elderly couple Heather and Ian Wilkinson, along with Heather's sister Gail Patterson and her husband Don, all dined at the house of Erin Patterson, their former daughter-in-law. The next day, all were admitted to hospital. 3 of them died. Ian Wilkinson is now fighting for his life.
It's certainly looking like the symptoms are consistent with death cap mushrooms.
That won't be confirmed until toxicology results are returned in a few weeks.
It's extremely dangerous. Even 1 mushroom can kill an adult patient, and even more so in a child. Extremely dangerous.
Dr Jonathan Carrow is the Director of Emergency Medicine at St Vincent's Hospital in Melbourne. He's also a clinical toxicologist and specialises in treating patients who have been poisoned.
The classical syndrome is the patient will often be okay for a few hours, 4, 5, 6 hours, and then will develop profuse, really heavy, watery vomiting and diarrhoea, and over the next few hours that will progress to liver failure and potentially death.
The lunch guests had travelled from the town of Correspondent to Erin Patterson's home nearby. Police say the mother of 2 cooked the dish in question, but neither she nor her children ate it. Detective Inspector Dean Thomas says Ms Patterson is now a suspect in their investigation.
She is, and she is because she cooked those meals for us, for those people that were present.
But Erin Patterson has strongly maintained her innocence.
I didn't do anything. I love them, and I'm devastated that they're gone.
We keep an open mind to this. It may be very innocent, but again, we just don't know. But it's really interesting. The 4 people turn up, and 3 of them have passed away, with another one critical.
Police have visited a local tip to speak to workers and reportedly took a food dehydrator that had been left there. In another twist, Erin's ex-husband Simon Patterson last year posted on social media that he was hospitalised with a mystery stomach illness, which left him in a coma for 3 weeks. Correspondent isn't used to this sort of attention. The small town 2 hours southeast of Melbourne has been making headlines for all the wrong reasons. The deaths of 3 people has shaken the close-knit community, who are mystified by what's occurred and are looking for answers.
We continue to pray for Ian that he will be healed, but we know that the outcome may be different and it will be God's will what happens to him.
Parishioners have been holding prayer vigils at the local Baptist church where Ian Wilkinson is the pastor. He's currently in a critical condition in hospital and is awaiting a liver transplant. Ian and his wife Heather are well known and loved in the community.
We've known him for a long time, Ian and Heather. It's a bit of a shock to the system. They were very good people. It's sad for the community. He was jovial, he would listen to you, you could talk to him.
Dr Jonathan Carrow says it's very challenging for doctors to treat and even more difficult to determine if someone has been poisoned by death caps.
We see a lot of patients with various types of poisoning. Death cap mushroom poisoning would be right up there with the most lethal toxic ingestions that any patient can have. It can be that no matter what treatments are provided, the patient still may die. Let's have a look over here.
Simon Claringbold is one of the lucky ones. 25 years ago, while gardening in his Canberra backyard, he picked death caps, mistaking them for field mushrooms. That night, Simon was the only one in his family to add the mushrooms to his spaghetti bolognese. 18 hours later, he knew something was wrong.
I was vomiting and had diarrhoea 2 days after the poisoning. I went and saw the doctor. He took one look at me and raced me to Canberra Hospital, and my wife gave me a part of the mushroom in a paper bag, and I took that with me as well. And the liver specialist there sort of looked at the mushrooms and basically said, oh yeah, that's a death cap mushroom. And they basically got me in an air ambulance, airlifted me to Royal Prince Alfred in Sydney.
Simon was conscious, but his body was slowly succumbing to the poison. At the time, doctors thought his only hope for survival was a liver transplant.
7 days into it was probably the worst. So that's when I started to black out and just barely conscious. I was preparing for the end. I really thought it was the end. The lights were starting to go out.
After 11 days, Simon's liver recovered and he was discharged from hospital. His doctor told him he was just lucky.
He basically just explained that the mushrooms are organic thing. The toxin levels aren't going to be consistent. It's not like taking a pill out of a bottle. Sometimes some will have more toxin than others, and it was just a chance that you didn't ingest enough to overcome.
These days, his Canberra suburb has signs warning of deadly mushrooms. But he knows how easy it is to get it wrong.
There's a lot of questions that have to be asked. Did the people that cooked the meal pick the meal? Did someone provide them to them? Things like that. Like for me, in my situation, I actually picked the mushrooms, so it was me and my wife cooked them. My heart goes out to the lady that cooked the meal, especially if she was just given the ingredients by someone else.
Oh look, it's a tragic thing that's happened. If you eat the wrong ones, you get very unwell. I think if you're lucky, you'll just get sick, but if you eat the wrong ones, it can be tragically fatal.